Now, if you expect a bonus or stock award or other windfall this year, it's crucial to create a plan for how you'll use that money before you receive it. Remember, easy come, easy go. If you don't appreciate what you have, then there's a good chance that it'll be gone before you know it. Making a generational impact starts with one person, one family, one community. And so the Gen 1 legacy is my attempt to help first-gen tech professionals like you get your financial house in order so you can live your legacy. Have you ever come into a large sum of money and just like that, it's gone? Well, you're not alone. That's because when I was a kid, I often made money by helping my dad at his auto body shop during the summer. Now, for all of my toil, my father was kind enough to give me a solid $50 for my trouble. And back then, that $50 was a lot of money. And so payday eventually came, and the night before, I'd lay in bed imagining all the things I could buy at the mall with what seemed like a windfall. Now, keep in mind, this was years before I learned to put money away and save prudently for the future. Even so, all I knew was that I had money that was burning a hole in my pocket and I needed to do something about it. And so, sure enough, a few days after receiving my paycheck, I spent it on Mexican hot chocolates, ice cream, soft pretzels, arcade games, and useless knickknacks from one mall store to the other. And so, just like that, in a day or so, $50 was gone. And now, to add insult to injury, I was left with shopper's remorse. Maybe you felt that way too after spending a windfall, right? Well, by this point, the excitement was gone, and I wish that I'd done something more meaningful with my windfall, like buying a video game or some kind of book or comic book to keep me occupied throughout the summer. Now, have you ever felt disappointed when the excitement from a spending windfall finally wears off? Or maybe you felt discouraged after spending through a tax refund or a bonus or vested stock award. Either way, you likely know that not having a purpose for a financial windfall can open the door to frivolous spending and hence regret. That's why when you receive a windfall, you should create a plan for how that money will amplify your life goals. Because if you don't, you're likely to impulsively spend it, leaving you with not only the guilt of overspending, but also the conflict of letting yourself and your loved ones down. So then, if we all know that we should do better with money that freely comes our way, why is it that we still struggle with making wise money choices, especially when it comes to financial windfalls? Well, it likely has to do with the trouble we get into when we use mental accounting. Now, this term mental accounting was coined by the economist Richard Thaler. And mental accounting is like when you put money into different imaginary jars based on where it came from or what you plan to do with it. Now, this approach can make you do funny things with your money that might not make a lot of sense if you think long and hard about it. For example, have you ever received money back from the government like a tax refund? Have you ever stayed up late at night thinking about how you actually spend that refund? Even though that money was yours all along, you might feel like it's a special treat, right? It feels like free money. So then when you think about it this way, you're likely to put that money or that money that's coming to you in that free money jar. So instead of using it for something boring but necessary like paying off credit card debt, you might decide to live a little and buy something fun or go on a big trip, right? Because ultimately, it feels like you're spending free money, even though it's just your own money that's coming right back to you. So then if you get $10,000 back in taxes, you might think, yay, free money. And here's where you go out and you buy something cool or go somewhere nice, right? Now, it might feel good right now, but that feeling won't last because you know it's not the smartest way to use your money. Now, that economist Thaler tells us that this happens because we think of the tax refund as something different than our regular money. That's because due to this mental accounting, it seems like we received a bonus that we can have fun with, even though we know it would be smarter for it to use that money for something more important. And so the trouble with falling for this mental accounting trick is that we often get trapped in near-term thinking that can derail our long-term success. How so? Well, take the power of compounding, for example. Let's say that you receive a $50,000 bonus from your employer for all the hard work you've done over the past year. So then what should you do with this money? Well, bonuses are bonuses, right? You could use that money for a blowout vacation or treat yourself to a shopping spree for toys around the house. Now, the trouble is that you already know what it would feel like to be on the other side of that spending spree. Logically, you know that putting that money away so it can grow for the long term would be more advantageous than spending it in the near term. What you need to do is align that windfall with a long-term purpose that you've already defined for your life. In fact, if you put that $50,000 to work over 15 years and let it grow at 6.5%, you could triple your money by the end of that 15 years. Imagine what you could do with that $150,000 15 years from now. That could fund your kids' college. That could be the down payment on a vacation home. That could help you start your retirement on the right foot. Either way, the fact is that putting your retirement to work now reduces how much you'll need to save today to reach your future goals. Now, if you instead decide to use up all that money today, you're effectively taking away the potential opportunity to use that money in the future at a higher value. Remember, windfalls are waypoints, not endpoints. They help you move closer to the bigger goals that you've already established for your money. So from this perspective, don't let your windfall be a distraction. Now, another problem that you'll likely face when you don't have a purpose for your financial windfall is that over time you can develop guilt from poor spending decisions that eventually leads to self-sabotage. And sometimes the negative feelings associated with poor financial decisions could send you into a spiral that has the effects beyond the initial windfall itself. Now, I, like many of you out there, I'm sure, have tried dieting at various points in your life, right? And so, like a lot of experts will tell you, dieting simply does not work. That's because I found that at times I end up gaining more weight after my diet than when I initially started. And this weight rebound had nothing to do with the food I was eating. Instead, it had to do with the fact that once I fell off my diet, or I felt the feeling of making poor decisions, I didn't care about counting my calories or counting my macros anymore. I just go with the flow and just splurge, right? Certainly, it wasn't the diet that threw me off. Rather, it wasn't sticking to the plan that sent me in the wrong direction. I'd think, what's the point? Things will always be the same. Why should I even try? Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever put your car into a ditch because you've gone off course? Well, I know I have. Now, in a similar way, not having a plan for your windfall and just spending money as it comes to your hands could set you up for a similar outcome. How so? Well, let me tell you the story of a man named Jack Whitaker. Now, in December 2002, Jack Whitaker won nearly $315 million in the Powerball lottery. Now, at the time, this was the largest jackpot ever won in a single lottery ticket here in the United States. Now, it's important to know that Whitaker was already a millionaire from operating a construction business before he won the lottery. And despite his existing wealth, the windfall presented him with an unprecedented opportunity to further his financial security, support his family, and contribute to his community. Overall, winning the lottery was a good thing for a man who was already blessed, right? Well, not so much. That's because following the win, Whitaker's life took a series of traumatic turns, and much of it was due to the impulsive and reckless spending and generally poor financial choices. And by some accounts, he indulged in high-stakes gambling, he gave money to friends and family without a strategic plan, and he made numerous investments in businesses that didn't align with his expertise. At the same time, this poor guy was robbed several times as he often carried large sums of cash on his person. And these financial missteps were compounded by personal tragedies that included the loss of his granddaughter and circumstances that were indirectly linked to his misuse of lottery winnings. But ultimately, Whitaker's relationship with his family and his community suffered as a result. He faced lawsuits, he faced personal loss and public scrutiny. And so the man who once had everything found himself grappling with the consequences of his decisions and ultimately expressing regret over winning the lottery. In the end, Whitaker was a broken man. And his later reflections revealed his guilt over the overspending to the extent that he wished that he would never have won the lottery in the first place. That's because the conflict of letting his future self and loved ones down was manifested in his deteriorating relationships and the personal losses that he endured. Now, Whitaker's experience is an extreme example of how impulsively spending a financial windfall without a clear plan to amplify one's life goals can lead to a profound level of emotional distress and a fear of failing to live up to your own expectations. Indeed, not being proactive with your money could set you down a path of not just blowing through a tax refund or a lucrative stock option vest. It could leave you with a defeatist mindset and trap you in a self-fulfilling prophecy that nothing will ever change. That's why windfalls are waypoints, not endpoints. So then what can you do to avoid the perils of impulsively spending and turning your windfall into a waypoint for the future? Well, if you're expecting a big tax return this season, or you're expecting a big bonus to come through, or you have stock awards that are vesting, you can start by moving that windfall into a trusted savings account. Here, what you're doing is you're moving the cash away from your checking account into a place that's not easily accessible. And so why would you want to take this approach? Well, that's because by immediately placing your windfall in a savings account or somewhere that's segregated, what you're doing is effectively putting a barrier between your impulse to spend and the action to actually spend it. Now, this approach is crucial because this cooling off period allows you to make more rational, long-term decisions and counteracts the natural tendency towards seeking immediate gratification. So then when you first receive your windfall, you should ask yourself, where can I put this money so that it's out of my immediate reach? And when you do finally receive that direct deposit or that stock award vest, don't wait. Take the time to move those funds to that segregated account where you'll be less tempted to actually spend the money. Now, the next thing that you'll likely want to do to ensure that your windfall is set for the future is to consider your long-term funding goals. Now, when done right, your long-term savings goals are directly tied to your most significant life ambitions, such as building generational wealth, supporting future generations, and contributing to the causes that you care about. So then, without a clear vision for the future, and especially your money goals, it's easy to let a windfall slip through your fingers on expenditures that don't contribute to your long-term happiness or your fulfillment. That's why as you go through this process, ask yourself, will my great-grandkids, will the people in the future be proud of me for the choices that I'm making with my money today? Thinking this far in advance will help you ground the decisions you make with your money in the present. So then what you'll want to do is start by clarifying what you want that legacy to look like. This could include identifying the values that you want to pass down to your family, the kind of impact you wish to have on your family and your wider community, community, and how you envision using your wealth to support these aspirations. And if you still need help clarifying these visions, be sure to visit us at legacygen1.com, where we have a number of different resources that you could utilize to achieve this outcome. Either way, remember, small moves can have a big impact here. And finally, the last thing that you'll want to do when you get that windfall is to act immediately. This means moving that money that you're about to receive into a savings account immediately after you receive it. To be sure, I know that when I receive a windfall and I just let it sit in the checking account, sometimes I let that mental accounting that Thaler talked about earlier trick me into thinking that I have extra money that likely has a better use. To be sure, taking immediate action will keep you out of trouble and give you peace of mind. That's because knowing that you're actively contributing to a legacy that reflects your deepest convictions can, in many ways, offer profound satisfaction and clarity of purpose. So then take the time to ask yourself, where can I apply this money today so I'm not just waiting to act? The longer you wait to define what the money's for and actually act on those financial goals, the more you expose yourself to external influences and internal doubts that can erode your original intent. That's why taking immediate action solidifies your commitment to yourself and to your family and protects your vision from being diluted over time. Now, if you expect a bonus or stock award or other windfall this year, it's crucial to create a plan for how you'll use that money before you receive it. Remember, easy come, easy go. If you don't appreciate what you have, then there's a good chance that it'll be gone before you know it. And that loss will not only cost you in terms of future loss opportunities, it could also be the trigger for a cascade of future poor financial decisions and ultimately challenge your belief in getting your financial house in order. That's why as tax season comes to a close and bonus checks are sent out, ask yourself how your life or financial situation could change over the long term if you use your windfall to speed up your broader life outcomes. Ultimately, windfalls are waypoints, not endpoints, that will help you not only get to your destination sooner, but the decisions you make today will also help you become the master of your own financial independence journey. To learn more about today's topic, you can visit the episodes page at legacygen1.com. And if you can find one person in your life who would benefit from today's message, please share this episode with them. But until next time, I'm Peter Donisanu, wishing you and yours abundant health and prosperity.
The Gen 1 Legacy Podcast is brought to you by Franklin Madison Private Wealth. Franklin Madison Private Wealth is a registered investment advisor firm with its registration and principal place of business in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Registration of an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The information shared today is not intended to be personal, legal, investment, or tax advice, or solicitation to buy or sell any security or engage in a particular investment strategy. The commentary and forecasts are limited to the dissemination of and general information pertaining to Franklin Madison Private Wealth's investment advisory services and are based on economic and market conditions that are subject to change without notice. For additional information about Franklin Madison Private Wealth, including fees and services, please contact Franklin Madison Private Wealth or refer to the Investment Advisor Public Disclosures.